You know, when I first started learning React, I had no idea how to add CSS to a React app. I was just like, how do you add CSS? It's just all these weird ways of writing things and involving JSX and all these things. You think it's almost very impossible, but it's actually pretty easy and cool ways to do it. So in this video, I'm going to show you 4 ways that you can add CSS to any React app, just like you do in vanilla, and how to cross over from what you do in vanilla CSS and vanilla web development into React. So let's get started. Guys, before I start, please, I want you to get a chance to check out my project called UIworkspace.com. I have a link in the description below. And it's basically an NPM package that has all of these fully designed and developed out layout user interface sections that can be added to any React website, plug and play. And I definitely want to get your feedback on that. So just go ahead and check that out and let me know what you guys think. And without further ado, let's get going. If you like React, CSS, Next.js, front-end web development, hit that like button and subscribe. Guys, let's see how do you do this now. All right, so the first way to do this is with global CSS. No different than what you do in vanilla. So let's show you that. You will have a globals file in your styles. See, whatever styles directory, I have a globals.scss. In my main app application, I'm importing the global sheet. And this is Next.js, but this will cross over. There's no difference, just like React. You're just importing your global CSS, and I'm using SCSS, so if you've installed Sass, it would be SCSS. If you didn't, you would use CSS. So you import that at the main part of your application, and now you have access to global just like you would anything else. So you can control the elements. So right now I have an H1 tag, so just like any old CSS, I can write H1, font size, 3 rem, and let me just make sure I have this loaded. And you see here, it loaded right here. You can change the color, red, and it's all changed right there. Let me just move this over a bit. And that's it. And then you can do the same thing. You could also do the same thing by adding classes. So instead of me doing the H1 tag, I'll remove that. Now I'll actually create a class and add it onto the element. So I'll say, I don't know, large red, whatever you want to call it. One of the banes of writing code is actually figuring out what to call your variables. But let's say you call it large red. Now, how do we add this right on here? You add it by using class name, not class, because that goes against the JSX rules. So what you're going to do is use class name, and you're going to, So you're actually going to need to use template literals. You're going to use the backtick here, and then you can just go ahead and write the class. So just like globally, just like this is just like as if you're writing class and putting all the things, you could just keep going. You could add multiple classes. So let's say we had another one, the large red one. We change it to background color black. And now we want to add this class right on here. We just go ahead and continue adding this right there, and it keeps going. So you just have to make sure you use the backtick, as you saw the error previously, and you're good. So you're just using global CSS, just adding it in any old way, doing whatever. If anyone opens up this app and makes changes to the CSS, everything's going to be affected. Now that's the basic way and typical vanilla way people do it in CSS. The reason why this is not my favorite is that it's global. So if anyone makes a change to this global sheet and another developer has injected these classes in various parts in the application, anything you change here is going to affect all of the other components. And the whole point that we went to React is that we can get more component based and kind of have the separation of concern. So it sort of defeats the purpose. But all these things are valid and important ways of doing them. So you got to know how to do them. So you can use globals if you want. I avoid globals because I love the scoped method. So now, before we move on to the second method, you could add use and also break this up into multiple sort of CSS kind of like semi-components, using the word loosely. But you can move all of this into, say, keep your main global sheet clean, add the use, import it, and then let's go here, the headlines.css. Let's say I put it all here. And it's all going to translate over into one. So typical, a lot of things you do in vanilla will cross right over. Let's go into the second way, which is my favorite way, which is scoped modular CSS. So what you're going to do is, first thing you need to create a style sheet. The way to do that is you have to call it .module.css or .scss. So whatever your name is, you import it in your component. name it whatever you want. It's going to create an object and it's going to import everything in this file. But the key is the file name, oops, everything went black. The file name has to say .module. And I have it here. Okay, so that's going to import everything called style. And in here, you're going to write things just like you would. So I would say, let's say color red. And now I'll say color red, right? So I have the class name, and let me just clean this up to get rid of my globals. Let's just get rid of all of this right here. All right, so now we're back to where we were. So we're gonna say color red. So now, how do I put this in here? It's all imported into styles, and now the way I use that is by going to class name, and then going styles dot the name of the class, and it's crossed over. So if you see here, let me close the globals. If I go here and add more content, I could add font size and then say, 3 rem, making all these changes. So the reason why I love this is scoped to the component. Any change, if someone opens up this home.module.scss file, wherever we include it inside the component, the only thing that would get affected is the component. The way it does that is if you inspect, React adds keys. So it appends together all of these attributes. So home, color red, and it adds a key here to keep it totally unique. I'm madly in love with that feature. So that's it. Now what happens if you want to add multiple scope classes to the H1? So let's take this out and let's make separate classes. So we'll call one .large text, and we'll make one and we'll add it here. So now I have color red large text. We go back, we add styles.color red. You can't just comma and add. So what you can do is add template literals. So then you'll go ahead and we'll add the backticks. Now we could add things here just like we could the globally. We're gonna add our styles, but you can't just add it like that. It becomes a string. You have to use the template literal version. And now it's crossed over. Styles.color red is still there. Now we can add the other class. Let me just bring this over so you can see it. And this is the one called large text. So now there it is. Both of them are there. Styles.color red, styles.large text, multiple scoped. This is my favorite way of doing things. Because I love to keep all my CSS in a CSS file, and I love to keep everything scoped to the component. But let me show you, if you don't, which I always use this version, but you never know when you need these other methods. You can actually write the styles right inside of the component, the JS file. So how that works is, let's go ahead and delete this. Let's start writing some CSS right in here as you would in vanilla. So you just want to add a style sheet right into the component when you're at your wit's end and you just add some styles. So what you'll do is you'll make a variable. So let me first get rid of, I'll just leave that for now. We'll just name a const, just any variable. I don't want to clash with styles, so I'll call it my styles. And here you just start adding the CSS attribute. So my styles kind of becomes its own class in a way. And you could just continue there. So you'll say like color and then red. So it's like you're creating this object, right, with the CSS attributes. So we'll do one called font. Now you can't do dash. So you have to transfer over what you do in JSX, which basically you get rid of the dash and use camel case. So instead of font size, it would be font camel case size, getting rid of the dash, and then say 3 rem. Now we have a class called myStyles as an object and the attributes. So now we'll take that and we'll actually go ahead and add it, class name, just like you would everything else. Oops, sorry, no, you wouldn't write in class name, I take that back. It would, if it's inline, it's going to be style, and then it's crossing over. So if you inspect here, it's went ahead and added inline CSS. So this is still like inline CSS in a way, although I didn't name it that. It creates this inline styles added right on there. So it's like you want to add some CSS right there. The next thing I want to show you is how do you actually write inline styles outline yourself, right? So this is still inline styles, but how do you actually write it? So what we can do is, let's actually leave the mine, it doesn't matter. We'll get rid of this. And what you're gonna do is you're going to go style and you're gonna add, let's save this. Whoops, yeah, so so this works here. So just to refresh this. So then we're gonna say style equals, and then we're gonna do another object inside of that. So this is gonna be the object, and now we're gonna go ahead and create the same CSS attributes right in here. So color red. So you saw that happen. So we just added inline styles, color red, and we could just continue just like whatever we would do here is what we would go ahead and add here. So we'll say font. Whoops, again, don't add the dash. So we'll say font size. And then again, it's like an object, so we'll say 3 rem. Now you can see here it's crossed over, and this is wonderful. Now we've added inline styles, and again, this is not my favorite way. I just want you to know all the methods. My favorite way is scoped modular CSS is the second way. First one, the other one you saw is global. This one is more inline styles. And again, remember, if you ever want to combine, you can combine these. You just have to make sure you use template literals a lot. So in this case, for example, here, like we add the template literal, and then we could do this, and then we could also add global. So this is the scoped one that comes from the module file. You could also add a global CSS here, just like you would, say we had one called large text, and it's all crossing over, so that would be global and scoped. So you can do that as well. But I would say, again, my favorite way is just using home.module, or again, home, you can change that to whatever you want, just using a modular CSS scope. It's the favorite way, the safest way. I hope you guys like this video. Hit me up in the comments, tell me what you guys think. How you doing with the CSS side of React. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next one.